Hello, we are Charla and
Jennifer.
and we're so excited that you decided to spend the next hour with us talking all about how to have a powerful portfolio.
It's true. We couldn't be more thrilled that you're here. Working and perfecting your portfolio is one of the best ways to level up. And as we like to say around here, glow up your progress towards any goals that you're working on. So go ahead and drop an emoji. You are excited. If you're ready to be here, if I could, I would. And mine would be the sparkle emoji. What about you?
Probably the shooting star has been a favorite for me lately, that or the melting guy, but I think this is a proper shooting star situation. Guys, why are we doing this glow up? Honestly, we feel like so many of us are really emotional when it comes to our work as creatives, and we constantly feel like we're lacking something. Maybe you're feeling like your portfolio isn't powerful enough to sell you, or you're not attracting ideal clients or planners, or maybe you're filled with self-doubt or unsure of your worth, or frankly, maybe you're just not feeling really proud of your portfolios.
Yeah, maybe you want to charge more. Maybe you want to get published. Could be that you're looking to work with dream planner and even more fun, dream client.
Yes, exactly. So as we go through our tips and tricks for you guys on how to dramatically glow up your portfolio, we really want this to be interactive. So if we're asking a question, we actually want you to answer. Drop emojis anytime we're saying something that you're like, yes, 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 because that lets us know where we should spend more time chatting with you.
Yep, it's always super helpful. So, guys, here's what we're going to be working on. I mean, you know how to read, but let's talk about it. There are so many amazing things to learn here today. We are going to work on culling. I am maybe a little bit of a culling biatch, so I'm excited to dive into that.
Knowing your role on the wedding day or on any day when you're in control and being the art director.
We love variety around here. Keep it spicy, people. We're going to be talking about your artistic approach and how you can bring that to your portfolio.
And probably the biggest key that I think most people are lacking when we're looking for education or wondering how we can have a true glow up, which is accountability. It is the key to longevity. It is usually the missing piece.
Ooh, okay.
So let's dive into 3 ways to drastically glow up your portfolio. So what are things that you always wish you knew more of to improve your portfolio? Like, is there one thing that you're like, God, if only somebody would talk about blank? What is it?
See it in the comments. I get in trouble for answering all the questions, so.
I wouldn't say in trouble. It's just not you we were asking.
I like my opinion.
Posing. We often have a lot of people ask questions about posing or a deeper understanding of composition, reading the room. We love to talk about how important it is to make it make sense.
It's our favorite thing to say.
And if there's anything else, don't hesitate to drop it in there and we will be sure that we talk about it with you guys. But before we really dive in, we wanted to tell you a little bit about us. Why are we the ones teaching you, and why should you even listen to anything that we have to say? What do we know?
Do you want to talk about yourself or do you want me to talk about you?
I don't.
Well, I'm Jennifer Wilson. I have been a photographer professionally for almost 15 years, which is crazy. And I've never worked for anybody else. And on top of all of that, I own Kindred Presets. If you're not familiar, it is a preset company and she's really fun. And obviously, I co-own Develop Academy with Charla down here. I have a deep love for what we're teaching today. I think it's monumental, and I'm so thrilled that Charla is so interwoven into my life. One of the most talented people in the world is right there. She can talk about it herself, though.
Well, I don't know that I would say that, but our photography is really important to us. I've been photographing people for 20 years, weddings for 11, and I did have a corporate America job. Jen was lucky enough not to, but when I did, I ended up on the executive team for a photography company that had 500 locations, and I was in charge of quality of photography company-wide. So I often was reviewing portfolios, critiquing portfolios, helping people improve their skill. And that was my full-time job for many years. And then when I started shooting weddings, it was really easy to take those things and apply it to my own work to see growth quickly, which is why we really want to talk about these things with you. We've been named top photographers by Martha, Brides, Over the Moon, We've been featured in probably every publication that exists, but we did want to mention including Vogue, People, and Harper's Bazaar. So why should you listen to us? Because we know what we're doing. We've done it. If there's a mistake to be made, we've made it. And we are also actively still shooting and aiming for the stars alongside you.
It's true. And the reason that Develop Academy itself exists is because we saw a gap in our industry where education wasn't necessarily feeling like it could be fun, actually make impactful changes in like immediately. And that a lot of people were hosting things where they were just talking about themselves and you never got to learn anything. So right now we're talking about ourselves. We're about to learn things. And that was not the status quo when we started Develop Academy. And we're just so thrilled and so excited that we get to be a part of so many beautiful adventures and dreams in this industry.
Ultimately, we both love wedding photography because we love serving people and caring for people. And that absolutely applies to Develop Academy. Jen's absolutely right. We saw an opportunity to provide service and a community where we wish we had found one during our own personal glow up. So that's why we created this. And we're experts. Jen is one of the greatest editors in the world. She owns Kindred Presets. And we've been featured and worked with on some of the biggest weddings that, a lot of people are aiming to get their hands on. Not even the biggest. We're still working towards that personally. But that's why you should trust us, because we've done it. And we are here to share what we've learned with you so that you can hopefully skip a few years of hardship and join us.
Skip it. Okay, so one of the things that you're going to see through this entire class, you guys, is the ability for connection in all of these skill sets that we're going to be diving into. So we want to be sure that you guys know to be looking for all of the little connecting dots throughout each of these topics.
Yeah. Everything comes back to connection. We're going to be going through, like we mentioned, culling and directing and creating. And we get so hung up doing those things that we often forget why we're doing it. And when we dive in and pull everything back, what we realize is it's all about connection. So just have that on the forefront as you're learning these things and actually circle back to it later. So make any notes about connection that you might have. And if you already know, especially after COVID, that connection is king, drop your favorite emoji, because maybe somebody here is also looking to connect with someone like you. Are we ready to talk about culling?
I'm always ready.
G-O-T-T-O-G-O.
The YMCA has been not effectively replaced, but she's got a competition.
I do hope that everybody saw Lollapalooza crowd doing it. It was mind-blowing. Even my husband was like, wow, this is amazing. So
it's my favorite. I love it. I love it. Culling, I fully believe that becoming an expert at culling and knowing how to share your professional and artistic voice by choosing which images go out into the world can change the trajectory of your career in a split of an instant. So culling, you guys, when we're looking at it through the lens of connection, who do you think we might be trying to connect with when we're culling? Or what do you think we might be trying to connect with while culling? Because I don't think that's something a lot of people or anyone really actually considers, is that this is where we get to go in, have a plan, and get to work while choosing our images.
Yeah. Golly, for real. I think perception is reality. And when we're oversharing our personal lives or we're oversharing images, we might be painting an incorrect picture of our capabilities. And when we overshare in our galleries, we come off as lacking confidence in our imagery and not putting forth that we are, in fact, the expert and we should be trusted. So ultimately, over-delivering images means that you look self-conscious and untrustworthy. That's rough, right? Because in your brain, you're like, I'm giving more and more is more. And that is not true. Here's an example of culling it like it's hot to go. You can see that we don't see the same of anything. And how does that make you feel when you look at it? You're allowed to answer, Jen.
I don't know. I feel like I have a real sense of the event that happened, who these people are, what their vibe's like, and what it might have felt like to be there.
It's an engaging story that makes you want to scroll down and see more. It's not a sea of sameness where you're like, yep, got it.
There's
Um,
nothing than when we hop into a student's galleries and I'm like, well, there's 50 images of the cake. Cool. And they're all the same angle. I
yeah,
see it. Yep.
exactly. We all see it. You don't have to say it. We all see it. So Jen said, you need to have a plan and you need to set a scene. Jen is so great at this. She talks about like when she's going to sit down to call, she's in a room that's inspiring. She burns a favorite candle. She has a favorite beverage. I know you even make playlists that you're going to listen to that keep you hyped while you're calling.
It's true. Calling to music is honestly there's two things. Start at the end. We typically, minus receptions, because those happen in ceremonies, but where portraits are concerned or details, call backwards
Yeah.
because you stop with that frame once you've gotten the shot. So 9 times out of 10, the shot you want is at the end. But calling to music, nothing that, you know what, honestly, Hot to Go would be a great call. This would be perfect. We don't want a slow jam. I mean, you can maybe start at your own pace. But being able to call to the beat is fantastic. It keeps you in a rhythm, literally. 10 out of 10 recommend. But yeah, calling is some people's nightmare. So if it's something that is hard for you or you strongly dislike it and you're not in a position to pay someone else to do it for you, how can you make it enjoyable?
Yeah.
Adding music that you love, making it smell good,
Mm-hmm.
doing whatever you can is going to help with a little bit of that cringe that you're avoiding.
I agree. Also, time yourself. You time yourself, especially those of us with ADD and ADHD. You are now it's like a challenge, right? Can you or can you not? And it will keep you highly effective. But the next biggest thing is go with your gut. A lot of times when you're playing, and just like Jen said, do it backwards, but then go with your gut and then you find that you need to do another call. But there is no reason to keep multiple images of the same exact thing. You are the expert, you know which one is best, and you need to make a decision. And when you're timed, then you're forced to instinctually pick what you know to be the best.
Yeah. And you might feel like these expressions, they're both so beautiful, but you know your client, you know which emotion felt right. And if you really are stuck, close your eyes, open back up, see which one you're naturally drawn to first. That's your winner.
Exactly. So, and then all else fails, get other eyes on it.
Yeah.
Call it again, call it like it's hot, and then ask a friend. And they will be so brutally honest if you're asking the right friend and if you're in an accountability group. And they will not only help you get the proper call for that event, but it'll help you in future calling endeavors as well. So let's do a little exercise. Here are some raw images that I pulled that were all taken side by side at the same time. How many of these would you keep? How many would you pick? Pick same thing. Which ones would you pick? How many would you? 3. Okay. 2.
I was going to say 3. I've got my fave 3.
Which 3 would you pick and why?
I like the top left because it feels like I'm approaching my seat at the table. I'm in between the top right corners, but I lean towards the top right corner. And then, I didn't give you why. I like the ambiance, but if that one's a tie for me, I'd need to see it bigger, and then I'd have to like flash. And then I don't remember which one was my third. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the second one on the top row. I don't hate any of them.
No, and that's exactly the point. When we're playing, we're emotionally attached to images that we took, and we're like, but I like them all. That's great. You can like them all, but you don't need to share them. Like,
Right.
We love paintings from famous artists, but they wouldn't have the same impact if there was a massive series, right? It's the one or the series of 3. We know odds work well. So you want to give the feeling of what it was like to be there. Try to force yourself only to keep things that are different. So Jen pointed out top left, which is actually different from any other image in the series. I agree. Top left, top right, I think is beautiful. I like the angle of the flowers. I would keep that. And then maybe second on top or bottom because they're at least giving us more of the table, more leading lines. And when we put those 3 together, they would feel like very different angles. So we would stay engaged in the portfolio piece or in the gallery and want to see more instead of being like, yeah, I get it. You like this table.
Yeah. Well, I feel like tablescapes are one of the biggest hurdles for, for most people to figure out. Do what?
Why is that though? Honestly.
I honestly think it's because there is no intrinsic emotion happening in the thing. And so in the photos, so you're having to create the story with inanimate objects. And if you've done a good job culling while shooting, then it makes it a little easier to cull it out. Yeah, I mean, I think we're just trying to evoke some emotions, a little bit of grandeur, and maybe that's really it.
Somebody said, like, I don't know what the designer wants, right?
True.
So that's another huge thing. When we're calling stuff, we personally are less connected to and tied to the emotion of the stuff, but we're wanting to please people who are very emotionally tied to the stuff.
Right.
So that's why getting educated about what the designer loves and what the florist and designer want will also help you confidently call stuff. I do find, Jen and I both have found that people struggle the most with stuff and over deliver details, which means you're telling a planner that you're not confident in shooting details. And of course, planner love details. That's what they're looking for. So know that this is not just about people. Here is a looped example of a moment happening at a wedding. How many photos were taken and an email? So Jen nailed it earlier by basically insinuating that the more you take, the more you keep. So culling is not just image selection after the fact, it's also maybe a little bit of self-control. When we talk about self-control, we often have people mention, well, what do you do when there's emotion? There's something happening actively. Obviously, we snapped it like it was hot to go over here. I think I counted 40 of this moment. This mother is bringing a bouquet to her daughter that has a spoon on it from her brother who passed away 9 months earlier. That was her best friend. She's unaware. So mom's emotional walking up already. She knows her daughter's about to be emotional. And then her siblings and her dad are watching. So this is a beautiful moment. We want to tell the story, but just because we may have overshot it doesn't mean we have to overcull it. Shooting a moment often means we don't want to miss it. And that's great, but you have to control yourself after the fact. We said there were 40 that we photographed. How many do you think we kept? Jen's counting.
I really love that. I'm trying not to let this tear fall from that story.
Rough. Look at them.
Yep. I want to say to 15 max.
I think it was exactly that. You nailed it. Because they're all different. So what makes them different so that we can have high impact. High impact. So maybe if we look at this, these are the ones that we're looping a moment that we kept, and you can see that some of them are similar, but they are impactful and different enough that you want to stay in this story. And like Jen, you probably feel something, right?
And I know what y'all are thinking. Jen has that presentation. She knew exactly how many images there were, but I didn't even think about it.
Yeah. Yep. I will say, if you were to rewind and look at how many were photographed here, you would know that there were a lot. How do we know what has impact? Well, maybe the first photo, like the second one here, mom is looking at the daughter's figuring out what's being handed to her. Mm-hmm. In the next photo, daughter's crying. In the next photo, they're looking at each other. Then she hugs her mom. Then we get to see her mom hugging her. Then we get to see the reaction of the family. And then we get to see what it is she's reacting to. And the portrait that was made after, which, by the way, the last one, them getting their heads close, that invokes so much emotion and is so powerful because you know what had just happened. Yeah. So we're calling it like it's hot by knowing when to shoot moments, right? Because we need to capture what's actually real and happening, but also like don't overshoot things that you know, especially when it comes to portraits, aren't it. And then after the fact, call it like it's hot and then call it again.
All 50 images would have ruined this moment for them when they got their gallery. Make sure you guys realize that that is what was just said to you.
You are the expert. Jen and I both agree that this is the easiest way for you to make the biggest impact on being perceived as a professional expert. Cull your damn galleries.
Most of your competition, they're not culling like this.
You want to be delivering what, 75 to 125 images per hour that you're present.
Yep. And someone's mind they did the math. They're like, not in there.
And those of you that are shooting full weekends, like, it's painful. We get it. Like, we shoot 3-4 days for weddings and we're still delivering very powerful and big galleries, but we are calling and calling and calling and even asking each other. Because imagine being the client and having to look through all of those images. If you are getting review fatigue because there are so many photos, it is a disservice and starts to do the opposite of make them excited. It gives them dread.
That's not anything I ever want my clients to feel.
No, there's no dance to dread. D-R-E-A.
I think dread's more just like a dirge. And that's the first time that word has ever shown up in a glow up.
Okay, so our first thing was culling, and our second is creative director. Who is it? Who's that?
Creative director? Right.
What do you mean by that, though?
I would love if this was my official title everywhere I went, honestly.
Oh, for sure.
There's just feels really like there for me. But we just did a podcast episode about this exact topic. Our podcast is called Glow On. You'll see our silhouettes. Go listen. It's a good time. But the role of creative director in the spaces where we are invited to go and capture memories is a role that I don't think many people feel they have permission to take on fully. I think a lot of people show up and they're like, I'm the photographer. But what happens when you shift from I'm the photographer to I am helping to create and direct the memories that I then get to capture?
Yeah. Especially as a wedding photographer, but also a portrait photographer. If you're photographing families, you're still a creative director. You need to know your role. When should you direct? When should you observe? Because that's how we're going to create galleries with a powerful impact, is variety. And you're not going to get variety without intention. So a variety of photo opportunities. You have the opportunity for candidates, poses, angles, portraits, getting in tight to really tell a story. And when you're thinking of it this way, like Jen mentioned, being a director, it helps your brain understand that some directors care the most, like Wes Anderson, about the composition, the scene and the colors. And some care more about the emotion and the moment. And some care more about documentary and the truth, right? So you have the opportunity to be Quentin Tarantino and Wes Anderson and Michael Moore all in the same day. A photographer that we love, Greg Williams, he shoots a lot of the red carpet, a lot of celebrities. He talks about how you are either a participant or an observer when you're taking a photo. It's almost always one of these two things. If you are a participant, you are communicating with the person behind your lens, and there's often more eye contact. But when you're an observer, you are not communicating with them, and you are photographing them most likely not looking at the camera. Whether you realize it or not, you are very much both of these people, and you have to start to do that with a lot of intention.
And that intention starts so much sooner than I think most people realize. If we are paying attention to who our clients are and the story that they're telling us throughout our client journey with them, then when it comes to the wedding day or your portrait session, whatever it is, you already have some insight into what type of story you might be telling. So we have to begin paying attention and kind of building the story long before our camera is ever actually in our hands. Because what's most important is that we know when to direct and when to observe, to do the Greg Williams. Which one of those is the correct thing to be doing? Because the last thing we want to do is to butt into a moment that was meant to be observed to help push that storyline forward. Could you imagine if Charla had stepped into that moment with the mom and daughter and said, oh, could you do that one more time? Could you hand that to her differently? Absolutely not. But we know that this happens. We know that this happens. But that is a line between observer and director that, in our opinion, should never be crossed.
Agreed. And to Jen's point, you can actually see that a little more than half of these were observer and the last few were a director. And that's exactly what we're looking for in a powerful portfolio.
Yes.
Especially today, those of you that are shooting weddings and have been around, it's important that you're aware of industry trends. And so right now, industry trend is like really fun, candid, flash, and that's fantastic. But you should be able to do that and what you have always done and loved to both stay true to your brand and your foundational principles, but be able to put out a movie in the box office that's also going to be received and perform well because it's something that's trending. So I think Hot to Go is a great example. It's her version of a song that has an interactive component that's addictive. So she found a way to get your attention in her own way and voice. And that's kind of exactly what we're looking for. So these are just some examples, and we're hoping that you're looking through each part of the day and realizing that sometimes you're the observer, sometimes you're the director, you're looking for that variety, and you're posing, right? You are posing or not posing. And we have a posing class, actually a few. We have a posing glow up that we do, which goes really into flow posing, which is how we can get many images from one pose, which is the goal, right? Because then you can direct and observe and be able to tell a fluid story. But then we also have people that came and talked about posing and candids like John Dolan and Daniel Kim. We even have posing with Rich Chard.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I mean, I think most of our favorite photographers we've had come on talk about posing in some way, shape, or form. However, those are the deep dives, the ones that are going to really spend time on there, on that subject. And I think what's really important too to see as we click through all of these different segments of this gorgeous wedding day is that we also know that there is a team of highly incredible professionals that help to make all of these moments happen. And when you are being a impactful and a director that's paying attention and knows everything that's involved, you have so much opportunity and responsibility to take care of everyone who's making this event as perfect as it can be. And we have an opportunity to positively impact the relationships with those people as well. So we kind of get to play God a little bit in certain parts of a wedding day with how we get to fiddle the puppets around and do all the things, but make sure that you're intimately aware of what's going on behind the scenes with everybody else who's kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah. And think of each part of the day as a scene. Like these are all basically scenes. What opportunity do I have to provide variety in this scene between posing, directing, observing, details, getting a variety of compositions, a variety of lenses and angles, right?
Yeah.
And then honestly, I would say the next biggest moment key would be in the moment. If you're not in the moment listening actively, then you're going to miss out on the opportunities to tell a beautiful story because you were hyper focused on what you wanted to make out of the story instead of what the story truly is.
I love little whispers and little things like, oh, did you hear her mom got her this secret present and grandma did blah, blah, blah? Open your ears, people. Open your ears. Have you ever imagined while watching one of your favorite movies, because you've seen it a million times, sometimes I watch Devil Wears Prada and I wonder, what if they had shot that fashion montage from across the street instead of on the same side street? Or like, what would have happened if? And I would encourage you guys, watch the things, maybe you haven't had to see it 500 times, but watch things and ponder the prospect that things could have been done differently. And what would that feel like for you as the viewer? Because that's the responsibility we have every time we go to work.
Yeah. And when you can tie a connection and an emotional story to the way you're directing a scene, quote unquote, of a wedding day, then you're actually providing a higher level service to your clients because they will know you are actively listening. They will know that you care. They will sing your praises. They will say your name in a room. And when you do the same for vendors, like I said, by being a team player, then they're also going to sing your praises. And you'll find that you'll start getting the work that you're looking for, the level of clientele, and have the confidence and ability to raise your prices and start to be making the money that you feel you're worth. Right. Calling and creative directing. Now, the third thing to dramatically change your portfolio and glow it up is artistic approach. We all have one. Do you know yours?
Well, and do you feel like it's something you have cultivated or something you've fallen into? Because I think both are very possible.
Yeah. I kind of feel like for example, if you're overshooting, overculling, oversharing, and not making enough direction changes for variety, then nobody knows if you do or don't have an artistic approach. You
Right.
kind of seem like somebody who's just pushing a button. And I don't mean that to be hurtful, but what if Uncle Bob is there with a camera and he can push buttons and knows how to make his settings? What's the difference between the two of you?
Artistic approach.
Wow. That's so true, Jen.
And just to clarify, guys, what Charla means by overculling is also what she means by saying underculling. It means not doing a good job culling.
Yes,
Just to clarify.
in the event that you were not aware of that. Artistic approach, I often talk about and think of forever and always Wes Anderson. And
Yes.
I feel like you can take his artistic approach and apply it to anything and everything, and it will look and feel like him, which is why, I think over a couple of years making things about Wes Anderson, like the reels and TikToks, like don't make this about Wes Anderson. You can do it
With anything.
and it feels like him, and it's because of his artistic approach and often specifically his composition and framing.
Yes.
So this is where we have a huge amount of power and decision making to create work that is scroll stopping, that somebody might be like, oh, I think that's Jen's. This looks like something Jen would do. Oh, that's Jen. Look at me. I'm understanding her brand and artistic approach.
I had that happen once, and it was one of my favorite moments. It hasn't happened again. I should text her and see if she'll tell it to me again. But
I'll be like, I knew this was yours before I saw your name. And that is single-handedly the greatest compliment.
It truly, truly is. He also is just a master of light and what he does with light too, but that's not what we're here for, but we can be there for that in other times. But I think this topic specifically is an area of growth that I don't think most photographers see as an opportunity for growth for themselves. The artistic eye, you either have one and it was just installed and it's fantastic and you got a great sense of balance and all the things, or you need to learn what to look for and how to hone exactly what it is you are looking for when you're framing, you're posing, and doing all of the things. So this is also just a quick touch on composition. So how many of you are familiar with the rule of thirds?
I hope all of you, for sure. And the golden ratio, another big fan, which is the seashell.
Hello. The Fibonacci sequence.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's also iconic. So listen, if you hear these terms and you're like, what? I would like to know more. We have a class that is literally like 6 hours deep dive into how to be a composition phenom. Like it's you'll never question your composition again. And you'll also walk away able to like grade your own photography work after the fact. Like you're going to be culling and you're going to be like, oh, this is easy to cull. That one's trash because the composition is trash and I know it. So it's huge. I really believe that composition is single-handedly the best way to have the most impact on the quality of your photography. But we're not here to teach you composition. We don't have 6 hours with you today. So we're briefly going to talk about these so that we can all assume we're on the same page. So this example, they're in the middle. We like to call that iconic.
It's true. That is what we like to call it. And this is using the rule of thirds. If we were to draw a grid of thirds, his heads would be right in that cross section on the left side. And that pulls your eye directly in, which is nice.
And this is also the rule of thirds, but this one's obviously on the left quadrants, and this one's on the right. And this one gives you that Fibonacci vibe. So does this one. If you look at these three, they are the exact same photo. Which one gives you the feels? Which one do you connect to? This is also the exact same photo, all using what? Composition. Yes, exactly. Rule of thirds. However, so often when we use the rule of thirds very, very well, we'll find that the Fibonacci sequence will find its way into the world. So these are all the exact same photo, cropped in different forms of the rule of thirds. But this one also naturally gives you the Fibonacci sequence or the shell or the golden ratio, all the same thing. But for that reason, in my opinion, this one's gold.
That one's the winner.
But maybe this one's more your vibe. That's fine because this is your artistic approach.
And we're iconic, baby.
Iconic, baby. This is, I think, the reason we wanted to touch on iconic is so many people feel like they have to use the rule of thirds all the time. And there we go. My artistic approach is the rule of turds. Damn it. Rule of thirds everywhere.
What is the rule of turds? I love this. Leave it in. Leave it in forever.
The point, though, is that you can create images that are smack dab in the center and have just as much feeling and emotion, and the rule of thirds or the sequence can come in naturally with dresses, flowers, hats, landscapes. So just don't get addicted to just thinking that if you put them in the quadrant in the rule of thirds that that's your artist.
You did it.
You're amazing. That's not it.
No, it's all about refining and learning how to use those muscles effectively. Turn on the 3x grid on your iPhone. It's a great way to start practicing and start looking for natural opportunities where movement naturally brought you into the image. Love composition. So
I am obsessed, and probably the biggest, like, I only know one other person who might be a bigger, I don't know the way to word it. I don't want to say a composition Nazi, but turds. Okay. Here's another major key, in our opinion, on your artistic approach. How do you shoot boring things? We have got to get comfortable taking our camera everywhere with us and starting to shoot things in a creative way, things that maybe we would think of as boring. We want to give you a couple of examples. We shot the bride wore 3 pairs of shoes. This is a new thing for us. Actually, no, but it's a thing for us. They have multiple pairs of shoes. I'm here for it. I'm a shoe. So we shot it with beautiful fine art vibes on the left, and then we looked for a way to shoot it with something more interesting, and then we looked for a candid opportunity where you can see that it's just on a table in front of a window with some fantastic light. Opportunities to shoot something boring but differently are like looking for ways to use different kinds of light, looking for different, more unique backdrops, or an interactive component, or blur, angles. There's so many ways to shoot something boring differently.
well, and notice that composition, that artistic edge throughout those images of those shoes really help to push the envelope and tell that story more comprehensively.
Yeah, really, really, really the best way to become an expert in this area is to shoot more of what scares you.
Yeah.
So often people get into the flow of shooting the same thing the same way, and they think, oh, well, I have cohesion event to event, and therefore I have an artistic approach. But you're avoiding shooting more of what scares you. Personally, don't feel excellent at candids. And I will easily bring somebody on my team who I think is excellent and be like, they're going to get it. So I don't need to push myself. And in reality, I do. I need to feel completely excellent at candids. Now, that doesn't mean I don't take them. It doesn't mean that they're not great, that they're not featured, and that my clients don't love them. It means that I don't feel like an expert at them. And that should be my indicator that it's where I should spend my time taking my camera everywhere I go and shooting more of what scares me.
That's good. It's really good storytelling on the left, too, by the way. You've got composition kicking ass. You've got the stars in there because it was a starry night after party, if I remember correctly. Nailed it.
And we added some flash to get some fun shadows because we already have it in front of the menu and it's just a drink, right? But here's some more drinks. This is natural light, sunset. They had the custom napkins. Are you tired of shooting napkins? I bet you might be. You can do it in a more interesting way. Another one on the right is natural light, but having an interactive component. So just playing with light and interaction and whatever floats your boat.
And guests, the right guests, they want to be in pictures.
They want to.
Yeah, you'll know.
She'll be like looking for it.
She knows she looks good. I can pull her to interact with these elements. She's going to be thrilled.
When you can shoot down on a table and add flash for interesting light and make it just a little more compelling, of course you took it in natural light with the quote unquote typical and proper angles. The middle image is a favorite of mine. It adds blur and interaction. Like now we know what it feels like to be there. We're shooting something quote unquote boring, but in an interesting way. How many of your clients pass out cheesy ass dance stuff? I say it's cheesy. It's cheesy as a wedding vendor, but I love it as a guest.
Yep.
Right? And she didn't want to wear them. This isn't even the bride. This is a bridesmaid. She didn't want to wear them on her face to mess up her makeup, and she couldn't see because everything was blue, but she still found a way, and it made it easy for us to shoot something boring in a fun, interactive way.
They're so cute. I look great in my giant red heart sunnies from my cousin's wedding. I love them.
You do. Not everyone does. I don't.
You look great.
We had this chat, Jen. Sunglasses and buns are your thing. They go.
Go get yourself a big head.
I would. I try. More examples, interactive. The menu is photographed on the plate, of course, but what happens to a menu? What's the purpose of a menu? How can we showcase a menu in a different way?
I love that.
Shoes are to be worn, it turns out.
Must be on feet, apparently.
The bride was more than happy to put on her shoes and showcase her legs. Same bride, different pair of shoes, but what actually happened? So we kind of have like interactive detail shot, we have like posed, and then we have candid. So something boring in a different way. So your artistic approach gives you a voice to take the being a creative director and your artistic approach, and you bring those together, and you'll find that the more of these components you have, the more unique you are.
Yeah.
And then the more you care about these things, the easier it is for you to cull and be able to create galleries that have high power and impact on those that are viewing them, keeping your name highly relevant in their heads as they move forward, wanting to produce more work that they're really proud of.
Yeah. Take the opportunity to be an artist in moments when most people do not.
Have some freaking fun. If you are in it for the long haul, you're going to shoot a lot of weddings. And if you shoot all exactly the same way, you will find your way to burnout and boredom. Yeah. So have some damn fun. Do what you do and do well, and then add something that scares you, and maybe find your own voice in whatever trend is happening, because there's always a trend happening. You guys, those are the 3 things that we know will dramatically blow up your portfolio. But we have 2 more like bonus tips that we want to discuss. Constructive critique. How many of you know?
Being open to constructive critique is step 1 to constructive critique.
Yeah. Being open and seeking it out, because you're not going to find it. You're going to have to ask. Almost everyone in our industry is a creative and therefore has some emotional tie to their work. So I think it's imperative that you find a safe place that is honest. You're not looking for somebody to tell you that you're amazing. You're looking for somebody who's going to tell you what you're doing that's amazing and where they see an area of opportunity for growth. So you have got to get yourself someone that you trust to critique you, somebody who's honest.
We love a good area of opportunity. I mean, and if you are at a place where you're not willing or open to hear that there are opportunities for you to grow, and I doubt you're even here, but
true.
Yeah.
Sure. What occurred? It is the difference, because think about it. People at corporate America, and maybe that's even you right now. Maybe you're not full time doing this yet, and we hope someday that you will be. And we hope to help you do that. But you have a boss, and a boss is like, "Oh my gosh, great job! You did this so well." Or they're like, "Hey, I see what you did here, and I appreciate it. Next time, let's make these changes." Just like in school, it's not all bad. You sucked at this, this, and this, and this, and you suck. It's definitely like, okay, why did you make this choice? Could you have made this choice? And it gets your brain thinking outside the box. And that is where you will find growth. Because as long as you're plug and playing the exact same formula and not making changes, you'll find, like we already said, burnout, boredom. But when you have somebody telling you things that are very honest and open, then you not only can glow up your work, but also who you are as a person, and your artistic approach will change, because you'll start to see things that you had blinders on from before. Something Jen and I do, and with our favorite vendors, we do this too. We call it a post-mortem. Any event, we talk through what happened and what we could have done better. And so it's not necessarily just negative, because it's not what did we do wrong. It's what could we have done better. And often you'll find that what you could have done better was out of your control, whether it's the timeline or the weather, but you'll learn more from that than anything else, because you still have some element of control.
And it's also just a beautiful opportunity to show the team who worked so hard alongside you that you're in it to grow alongside them and build community with them, which is just, you can't put a price tag on having friends in the industry who saw you start here and you're growing together. So never underestimate the power of that as well.
Yeah. And I think the last thing to hit on for critique is millionaires that get on podcasts or books. They talk about one major change that happened in their life is they got what they're calling a board of directors. So often, especially as a creative, we have thoughts and feelings about things, and they can be really intense and heavy. And we might wonder, is this me? Is it real? How do I know? How do I process? And if, maybe it's a therapist, but if you have a board of directors that are aware of what it is that your goals are and what it is that you're doing, you can run your thoughts through them and they can help validate whether they're real or not and guide you on the path to what it is you stated that you're setting out for. So get yourself a board of directors. In our specific industry, that looks a lot like community or an accountability group. I would say have both.
Well, and if you're an ADHD sufferer, feel free to drop your favorite ADHD emoji. You're in good company. Having that board of directors is going to keep you accountable to all of your tasks and all of your dreams and goals that you have made to level up to the next level.
Yes, conquer the big bad boss so you can move on to the next level of the game.
Bowser, I've beat that mofo so many times.
He's quick for a big boy. You know what I'm saying?
I know. He really is.
Boy. Okay, so what are you accountable? And if so, to who? What are you doing to hold yourself accountable? Or what have you put in play in your business to find some sort of accountability? How do you find growth without accountability?
Being the only person who is keeping yourself accountable to your dreams and goals and aspirations might seem attractive for a little bit, but eventually it's just exhausting, and then there's no one keeping you accountable. So if you find yourself in these seasons of burnout and you're not open to critique and you're not open to all of these things, it's likely that you are a photographer on an island with no resources coming in and only resources going out. And it's time to stop that.
It is time. I think when we talk to, because we have a mastermind, so we're all about accountability and community. And what we so often hear them talking about is like putting together social plans for their social media and marketing, helping each other with website updates and image selection, helping each other in times when they're feeling that self-doubt we talked about earlier, or wondering if their images and their presence is good enough. It's that board of directors that you're looking for to give you honest critique in a loving way because they actually want to see you succeed. And that hits different when you're working as a team and you find success. If you're cheering someone that you love on and they find success, it feels like you did too. And, the laws of attraction state that the more you put yourself in these situations, the more likely they spill over into your cup. So by having an accountability group and a community, you're putting yourself on the path to success along with others that are like-minded and have big goals to have powerful portfolios and presence within the industry because you're actively working towards tomorrow.
That's good.
I think really let's come back to this looking for connection. What dots can you connect between the three things that we discussed? Please tell us. We would love to know. Emotion, yes. Honestly, confidence. Because think about it, like when you're culling, you're looking for images that you feel confident about and invoke emotion. When you're directing, you're looking for moments that you feel confident about that invoke emotion. And I bet you can guess when everything is connected and everyone's looking for connection. So when you're shooting details or you're culling and you don't know what you're looking for, look for opportunities where there is connection, whether it's between the tabletop and the florist's favorite flower or room aspect that that the designer loved the most. Those are things that are going to have a connection for them that's going to shine a bright light on you and your ability to be the expert and create these images that they feel emotionally tied to. They're going to want more. They're going to want you. They're going to get you more work.
All three of these things combined give you the superpower to be the ultimate connector. It's my favorite.
So you're probably here because you want to dramatically glow up your portfolio. And that's why we gave you our three biggest tips. Maybe you're feeling self-doubt or you're not getting the leads you want or you're not able to charge what you want. And You might even just not be super proud of your portfolios that you're sending to clients and planners.
Mm. But as we mentioned throughout our time together today on all of those nice little shallow dives we did into each of these topics, we have deep dives available. They're called glow ups into each of these three beautiful topics that we discussed with you today. And they are going to help you to jump in, get in there to work and see actual change that you can put a finger on and know that you have transformed that part of your portfolio.
Absolutely. Obviously, in an hour, we were able to give you so many great tips and tricks, but with more time and deep diving into specific topics, we have proven results from hundreds of students that have taken these classes and been able to step out and have a distinct brand and portfolio that is being recognized and being able to connect with the right clients and planners and what they have been dreaming of.
Well, if you want to stay in touch, there's the info you need. But hopefully, we will be in all of the stays in touch